Doom Eternal is an excellent game. It's the GOAT. With its unique and extremely dynamic gameplay, impressive bosses, a complex and solid story, a great multiplayer mode, and an awesome horde mode. And I haven't even mentioned the best part of Doom Eternal yet, its incredible soundtrack. You should really hear it for yourself. It's absolutely amazing. But seriously, Doom Eternal is an outstanding game, showcasing a truly impressive evolution. Going from this to this. And excelling in every aspect, standing out in the most important part of any video game, the gameplay. The gameplay of Doom Eternal is absolutely fantastic. It features an extensive arsenal and a huge variety of enemies. I've played Doom Eternal on the highest difficulty available to me, Nightmare, and I can confidently say that staying still in the later levels is a guaranteed death sentence. You absolutely have to keep moving. You also need to analyze which enemy to kill first, how much ammo you have, which weapons to use, how to move and where to move, keep track of your health and shield, and decide when to heal or when to recover ammo, and so much more. To better understand this, we need to follow the advice of Jack the Ripper. Take it piece by piece through everything that gameplay involves. And a big part of this would be the armaments. Doom Eternal features a large variety of both primary and secondary weapons. There are 9 primary weapons. 8 of them can be obtained simply by playing through the campaign, while the 9th is unlocked by collecting 6 Empyrean keys, which you earn by completing mini-challenges scattered throughout some levels. The primary weapons include a shotgun, an assault rifle, a plasma rifle, a rocket launcher, a super shotgun, a crossbow, a chain gun, and lastly, the BFG 9000. Each of these weapons, except for the super shotgun and the BFG 9000, comes with 2 modifications that drastically change how they function. For example, the assault rifle has a mod that allows it to act like a sniper or a mini chain gun. The same applies to every weapon with mods. So, you could say there are 9 weapons, or even 21 if you consider the mods as separate tools. If that sounds like a lot, brace yourself, because now it's time for the secondary weapons. We have a chainsaw, a flamethrower, frag grenades, ice grenade, a sword, a super punch, and finally a hammer that can only be obtained in the DLCs. Here's something curious. For some reason, using the chainsaw gives you ammo, and the flamethrower gives you a shield. Okay, additionally, there are also power-ups scattered across certain levels. These give you various effects, such as instant kills or full health recovery, and many more things. There are even environmental elements like platforms or explosives that can help or hurt you during combat. The beauty and the curse of this is that if you want to beat Doom Eternal on the highest difficulty, you absolutely have to master all of it, from items to weapons and even some strange mechanics. It might seem like a lot, because it is, but the great thing about Doom Eternal is that at some point, you'll start pulling off amazing combos without even realizing how you did it or how you learned to do it. I'd rate the arsenal an 8 out of 10. It's very comprehensive and there's almost nothing missing. But now that we have this arsenal, what do we use it on? Who do we fight that brings us to the enemies? To the enemies. To have such a large arsenal, we need enemies that are just as large. In Doom Eternal, there are 5 types of enemies: minor, medium, heavy, super heavy, and mini bosses. The minor enemies, these are present throughout the game and are mainly used to recover health and ammo. Medium enemies, annoying but easy to kill. Heavy enemies, these start appearing midway through the game. They're harder to kill. Super heavy enemies, these show up towards the end of the game and are mostly Tyrant and Archvile. The Mancubus can summon additional enemies, while the Baron of Hell is an absolute tank in both damage and health. And finally, mini-bosses. The first time you encounter them, they're mini-bosses, but later they become regular enemies while still retaining their strength. There are two of them, the Doom Hunter and the Marauder. Overall, the enemy variety is solid, but I feel like there could be more enemies with more creative designs. I'd give this section a 6.5 out of 10. It's good, but there's room for improvement. Speaking of enemies, let's move on to what's most important, the bosses. Damn, this is Doom Eternal's weakest point, as it only features 3 main bosses and 2 mini-bosses. Let's skip the mini-bosses and focus on the 3 main ones. Gladiator, Khan Maker, and the Icon of Sin. The Gladiator. This boss has 2 phases. In the first phase, it uses a shield to defend itself, attacking occasionally, and that's your opportunity to strike. The second phase is similar but faster, and with a few new attacks. I give this boss a 5 out of 10. The second boss, Khan Maker, has a peculiar mechanic. You attack the boss until it's stunned, then you get close and strike it. You repeat this process 6 times. While the mechanic is well designed, a solid strategy can make it surprisingly easy. Here's the technique I used. Attack with the rocket launcher. Move in with the super shotgun, and occasionally recover health and ammo using the Maker drones. I give this boss the same, a 5 out of 10. And finally, the GOAT of bosses, the final boss of Doom Eternal and Doom 2, the Icon of Sin. Has a brilliant mechanic. You must destroy 8 pieces of its armor, 3 on the torso, 4 on the arms, and 1 on the head. Once all 8 pieces are gone, you repeat the process. But this time you destroy 8 more new parts. Meat? Yeah, I guess. Its body? I give the Icon of Sin a 7 out of 10. A very good boss, but it has a small design flaw. Hitting its abdomen is very tricky, and that's it. The 3 main bosses. This is Doom Eternal's weakest aspect. I'd give it a score of 6, but I'm deducting a point because the design feels clunky in some areas. Another issue is that the last 2 bosses are found in the final 2 levels, which feels poorly distributed. Personally, I see this as a missed opportunity, so for the bosses section I'd rate it 5.5 out of 10, acceptable, but it could be so much better. And speaking of bosses, let's talk about something that can significantly boost or diminish a game's score. The graphics. The graphics and style of Doom Eternal are somewhat generic. They don't have a unique style or color palette. They're pretty standard. But look at this backdrop. It's very impressive. The downside is that this level of detail is not the norm throughout the game. Setting aside the style, the graphics themselves are solid, but nothing outstanding. When it comes to graphics, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Doom Eternal has good graphics and impressive backdrops, but it lacks a unique or standout visual style. And speaking of the backdrops, let's talk about where they appear, the levels. In Doom Eternal, there are 13 levels. Among them, there's only one short level, which is the battle against the Gladiator. The other 12 levels typically last between 50 minutes and 2 hours, depending on how quickly you want to progress. If you rush, it could take about 30 to 60 minutes, but if you're a collector like me, it might take 1 to 3 hours, especially if you forget that guides exist, like me. You might wonder why it takes so long, and the answer is that Doom Eternal has an enormous amount of collectibles. 54 codex entries, 33 toys, 14 music albums, 12 crystals, 27 sentinel batteries, 9 runes, 13 modbots, 36 praetor coins, 6 weapon impalers needed to obtain the 6 Empyrean keys, and finally, points to upgrade your weapons. That's a lot of collectibles, so it's better to use a guide. As for the levels themselves, they're very good, but at some point, they become repetitive. The pattern goes like this. You clear a wave of enemies, do some parkour, reach an open area, and fight a much larger wave of enemies. And basically, those are the 13 levels with a few variations here and there. I'd rate the levels a 6.5 out of 10. It's very good, but in the later levels, it can become quite repetitive. Additionally, the difficulty often just comes down to spamming more and more enemies. Personally, I found the last 2 levels somewhat tedious, with an artificially inflated difficulty. But you know what else is extremely difficult? Understanding the story of Doom Eternal. If you only play Doom Eternal without paying much attention, the story seems simple. Liberate Earth from the forces of hell. To do this, you must kill the 3 hell priests, then a cybernetic angel, and finally a demon. This is the basic version if you're just playing for fun. However, if you take the time to analyze the codices, cinematics, dialogues, explore the levels, and play the expansions, you'll discover that Doom Eternal actually has a very good story, but it's poorly told because they explain it through codices. This is a huge problem because we go from pure unfiltered adrenaline to the calmest thing imaginable: reading. Most of us who know this story from Doom Eternal exist primarily thanks to YouTube videos. Setting that aside, the story of Doom Eternal is very good, but I won't go into detail because even I don't fully understand it. I recommend you find a good video on YouTube. But now, let's finally talk about the best part of Doom Eternal. And I'm talking about its soundtrack. At this point, I'll talk about the soundtrack for both Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, since both are equally good. At least for me. There was a small controversy regarding the Doom Eternal soundtrack. But aside from that, the soundtrack of Doom is exceptionally good, just absolutely amazing. So much so that BFG Division is one of my favorite songs of all time. And if you're into heavy metal, I highly recommend listening to the Doom and Doom Eternal soundtracks, as they feature some truly amazing tracks. In this section, I give it a 8.3 out of 10, excessively good. But now let's move on to the extras. In this section, I'll talk about things I couldn't integrate organically, like the DLCs, multiplayer, horde mode, and monetization. DLCs. Doom Eternal has a base playtime of 20 to 26 hours, but with the DLCs, it increases by 4 to 7 hours each, since there are 2 DLCs that adds up to 8 to 13 extra hours of gameplay. Outside of that, the quality of both DLCs is very high. Both DLCs, The Ancient Gods Part 1 and Part 2, are of very high quality and absolutely worth buying. They're so extensive that I won't cover them in this video, otherwise it'd take me 3 more months to finish. The multiplayer, it's pretty good. When you join, you get to choose between playing as the Doomslayer or a demon. But these aren't just regular demons, they're special ones, each with unique mechanics to spice things up. The Horde mode. As the name suggests, this is a mode where you face wave after wave of enemies. You start with just a shotgun and gradually unlock more weapons as you progress. While it's well designed, I don't personally enjoy starting with only the shotgun. And finally, monetization. The monetization of Doom Eternal is, let's see. The base game costs $40 and each DLC costs $20. However, you have the option to purchase a pass for just $30. Additionally, if you wish to acquire all the cosmetics, the total would amount to $136, plus another $7 for a 1-month subscription to PlayStation Plus if you want to play multiplayer. In total, if you want Doom Eternal at 100%, it will cost you $136, and if you're playing on console, $142, which is up to each person to decide whether it's fair or not. But now, so should I recommend Doom Eternal to you? Absolutely, yes. This game is the GOAT. But before you buy it, I recommend you get God of War Ragnarok first. It's much longer, not as expensive, and overall, the combination of all parts of God of War Ragnarok is more than the sum of Doom Eternal. But if you're looking for the best gameplay in all of video games, I highly recommend Doom Eternal. I give Doom Eternal a 7.3 out of 10. But don't take that score too seriously. I just enjoy rating things with numbers. On screen, you'll see my second to last video. where I check if Fortnite is the best battle royale. Aside from that, I enjoyed making and watching this video more, but in the next video I'll add more of my essence to it. The others? And to see if this is true or more false than a good future, I'm going to have each battle royale compete to examine the strengths and weaknesses of each game. But first, we need to see how the battle royale. And thank you so much for watching.